Yes, sir, cameraman.
Live from St. Augustine, it's Saturday night.
Woo!
Hello, I'm Dr. Jay Hartley. We're in St. Augustine, Florida, at Dr. Joe Accurso's office. It's March 9th, 2024. And tonight we have a very special guest, Dr. Neil Cohen. He has spent a lifetime practicing down in South Florida. Then he took a little siesta and helped to run Sherman College for about 10 years. And now he's out spreading the word. He feels like there's just not enough people that know about chiropractic. So he's coming up to St. Augustine to teach us a little bit. So without any further ado, Dr. Neil Cohen. Welcome to St. Augustine.
Thanks, Dr. J. Appreciate it. First of all, I want to say thank you very much to you and to Dr. Joe Accurso and Kathy for opening up such a beautiful office to us. And without your determination, undeterred determination, this doesn't happen. And it's not easy. You really have to be committed and passionate about putting these things on. And I want to thank you guys as students and doctors that graduated Palmer. So we have both students and a graduating doctor for coming up from Palmer, Florida to listen to me speak for a little bit. Hopefully you guys get something out of it. I'm really glad that you're here and I'm proud of you for being here. And some old friends are here too. We have Dr. Mindy and Dr. Terry. We go way back. I can think of, it was the end of July 2002. We went to San Francisco separately. I came with Dr. Steve Friedman, which is part of their class. By the way, they come from, I think, the Life College best class ever, 1983. And I know that because when I got to Life College in 1986, they still had one more quarter to go. So my first quarter was their last quarter. And I met a guy named Dave Ferraro. So he was in your class, and so many of the people that were in your class are still connected. It doesn't happen, right? Like even in my class, we have a few, but it's just awesome to see that. So just good friends. So we went to San Francisco. We were supporting Dr. Sid. He was losing the school at the time. It was just a great time that we had back then at DE. It was an intensive DE. And I kind of cut my teeth on DE, and I know some of the people that are here have done that as well. So let's talk a little bit about living the principle. So you've graduated school, I've graduated school, we've got graduates here, we've got students. I want you to understand something, that what you're learning about this principle is going to take you through your entire life if you allow it to. The decisions that you make are all predominantly around this principle. I'm going to tell you, innate intelligence always does the right thing. Can you feel me on that? Always. It doesn't matter whether you have cancer or whether you have a toothache or whether you are as healthy as you can possibly be. Innate is always doing the right thing. And it's an example for us that we should always be doing the right thing as well. And we can do that because with each moment of testing that we have, we get to make decisions and we get to do the right thing. Whether it's making the correct adjustment, or it's saying the right thing to an individual, or it's helping somebody out that needs help. We always have an opportunity to do the right thing. But the thing that you're learning in school, and I pray that you are learning this in school, is that chiropractic is a new way of thinking. Chiropractors, what I call them the great disabusers. Now, if you don't know what that word means, disabuse, it means to remove notions from people that are not correct. And we get to do that all the time. We're the great disabusers. They are led down false and deceptive pathways of thinking, and we as chiropractors get to gently tune their radio station in little by little and get them moving in the right direction. And we're going to talk about how to accomplish that and be successful, because you're excited, especially if you're in school. Now, you've been out a little while, Joe, I know, but it's still exciting. But you've learned how to temper it. You've learned how to read the person, see what they need, and give them just what they need. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. Is this on? Okay, you did turn it on? All right, cool. So, this is for you guys. Now, D. D. Palmer wrote a book in 1910. Does anybody know when D. D.'s birthday was? 2 days ago. 2 days ago, March 7th, 1845. So he was 65 years old when this book came out, or wrote it, I'm not sure. So 65 years old. I'm 66, okay? My first book's coming out. I'll talk to you about that in a little bit. But D. D. Palmer wrote this, and I always love this page in the book. This is page 7, and I really believe this is to us. It says, to all those who long to elevate the human race by freeing it from ignorance, traditional prejudice, superstition, and the pernicious delusions of the superiority of drug medication and the necessity of surgical mutilation, and especially to those who desire to know the best method of removing unnatural and unnecessary condition called disease, conditions which cause great suffering and shorten life. That's what we do. This is our value. But we must disabuse people of the programming that they have. We ourselves, as chiropractors, have been programmed to think from the outside in. You understand that? Like, you grew up with outside in. You probably didn't, Dr. Joe. I know, because here's what's super interesting. We've got Joshua Becher, and we've got Joe Accurso III, and I graduated in 1986. Saturday Night Live started around 1987, 88 by his dad, and his dad in Tom Pastorsky's office. I was going as a little baby chiropractor. And it's still going on in South Florida, and now it's going on here. So kudos to you guys. This is amazing. This is a real cool thing to have you two here at the same time. And I know that heavens are shining upon you guys right now. But this word pernicious, it's kind of like that word disabuse. Pernicious is like faulty, insidious ideas that have been given to humanity. And that's what happens with the allopathic mindset. So people just go down the road that they think is correct because they have these pernicious ideas. And what D.D. was saying is we have to get out there and let people know that there's something better. There's something better. There's a better God to worship. You understand? There's a lot of gods in the world. There's a lot of worshiping in the world. There's a lot of idols in the world. But there's one God that needs to be worshipped. And I'm not saying chiropractic is a god. There are a lot of people that think it's an idol. It's not. It is a gift from God to chiropractors that allow us to deliver His power, His grace, His understanding of how He made the body. It's a beautiful thing, but we get to do it. Not any other healthcare profession gets to do that. Like, do you realize, like, think about this. I don't know if you guys get this. Like, you have been chosen not just to sit in those seats, but to be exposed to a profession where you can reshape humanity. I mean, it's amazing. Like, it's amazing. If you can plant that seed really deep inside and carry it with you, and don't let the things of the world distract you away from that, you're going to have a life that is absolutely incredible. I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's going to be incredible. Okay, thank you, my IT guy. This is just for fun.
Hi, I'm Robert Lee. I own Cohen Liquidation. I sell mobile homes. I'm not going to waste your time. I'm I'm gonna tell it just like it is. These are mobile homes, not mansions. They come in 2 pieces. If that's what you're looking for, that's what I got. They're used. Some of them have stains. We cover that up. She decorates them. She sells them. These guys help me move them. A bouncer in Birmingham hit me in the face with a crescent wrench 5 times. And my wife's boyfriend broke my jaw with a fence post. So if you don't buy a trailer for me, it ain't gonna hurt my feelings. So come on down to Coleman Liquidation and get yourself a home. Or don't. I don't care.
Couple things about that. I personally, I think it's hysterical, but for a lot of reasons. Number one, was there any doubt he was the leader of all of those folks? He was the team leader, okay? Was there any doubt that he had zero attachment to what his delivery or deliverable was? Zero! We could learn something from that, chiropractors. You know, we got big hearts, and one of the biggest, and we have to understand that we have the goods, we have the mobile home, we have the 2-piece stained floor mobile home that people need to live in. You want it or you don't. Now, that's not the way many of us operate. And we're going to talk about that a little bit because that is a specific style of leadership. And that's called leading from the front. And I will talk to you a little bit about that. Those type of people can get away with stuff like that because that's who they are. Terry, I can't imagine you ever saying or doing those things. It's just not who you are. And if you tried, it probably wouldn't work. And so what we have to realize, and the couple things I want you to realize, is leadership is important, number one, and also being unattached to the decision that people make when you offer them the opportunity to receive chiropractic. Okay, I want to go back. I'm sorry, I want to talk about this. So, philosophy. You need to strengthen your chiropractic philosophy. It is a bottomless well that you never get to the bottom of. There's not a person that says, I've arrived, I am the great chiropractic philosopher. Even the greatest chiropractic philosophers can learn more. Chiropractic is amazing. So always be understanding how you can grow in chiropractic. And I'm going to give you some really good nuggets tonight. Great to see the adjusting seminar that took place here, the teaching, the mentoring that took place. That's what we need more of for our students and really for our doctors. We have to get better at adjusting. Adjusting is not something we take lightly. It has to be done as innate would do it, as good as we possibly can. Unfortunately, and I don't want to step on any toes here. That's a handsome bug. I don't want to step on any toes. It's not your fault. It's just a Florida thing. You have to realize that the students that are in, and I have a very good understanding of this. The students that are in chiropractic colleges today, they are not getting the kind of chiropractic technical expertise that was around 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. It's been watered down, it's been changed, and I'll tell you how I know this, because I'm coaching students now that went to some of the mechanistic, non-vitalistic educational colleges, and they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. they don't know how to find a subluxation, and they don't know how to correct a subluxation. What year did you graduate?
1992.
Beautiful. Still good then. Still good. So it's up to you. Just like when you pass a test, they don't spoon feed you. You got to go study, right? You got to study adjusting. Speaking. You have to learn how to speak confidently. You have a mission message. Does this office have a mission message? You give your mission message to every patient. This is why we're here. You have to create your mission message, and you have to be able to communicate that. You need to know how to build relationships. There is a method of gaining trust and building trust as a foundation so you can have better relationships. That is the foundation. Personal and professional development, team development. It's very, very important. We have to get better at being us, and we have to know ourselves. Financial health. I've seen too many chiropractors. I've been around this game for a long time. Not a couple of years less than you, but I've seen a lot of people die broke. A lot of chiropractors die broke. It's not right. Not right. Not when you've been given what we've been given. So we have to learn how to handle our finances. And in doing that, obviously practice growth is important, but leadership. I want to end with leadership because we started with leadership. You have to understand that regardless, you're a leader. Chiropractors are leaders. We lead communities, we lead people, and we lead them to a better place. But you have to take that possession of leadership. There's a story about Helen of Troy, the queen, and she sent the navy out to attack the enemy, and the enemy was able to overtake, and they destroyed much of her naval forces. And what had happened was she got lost in the mix, and nobody could find her. And one day, one of the soldiers was walking in the streets, and he saw this raggedy old woman who looked like she was destitute. And he looked at her and he said, "Oh my God, it's Helen, it's the queen." And he walked up to her and he said, "Helen, queen." And she realized in a moment who she was. And she changed her stature. And she said, "Take me to my throne." She lost it. And that's what happens with us. We can lose it. But we have to know who we are, and we are leaders. This is a really important concept. And I want you to get this for your practice and for your life. This represents your organization, and your organization could be multifolded. In other words, multifaceted rather. Your organization could be this office, Dr. Curso, but it also could be your family. It could be your body, okay? It is the organization. So let's just talk about it from a practice perspective. Your organization is at the top of this triangle. The people, which are the people that serve the organization, and the people that you serve in the organization, they're on the second rung. And you know where you are? On the bottom. So every decision you make in this office, and for your office, Dr. J, has to be organizationally centric. You don't make decisions based on the people, and you surely don't make decisions based on yourself. You don't do that with your family. You don't run and play golf when Kathy needs you, okay? Because that's going to be a bad evening. I don't care how good you shoot, it's going to be a bad evening. And so the organization always has to come first. Same thing with your body, okay? You can't listen to your friends about going drinking Friday night when you got a test on Monday morning. because that's not good for the organization. Yeah, I know, it makes sense, right? It happens all the time. So your decisions in life have to be organization, people, self. One great example I remember when I was in practice, this big thing, chiropractors could write some kind of application, we could sign it so patients could get a handicap parking sticker. Remember that back in the day? I don't know if they still can do it, but people would come in perfectly healthy because they wanted a better parking space, okay? And these are good people. These are people that pay you. They come in a long time, and you've got to tell them no, okay? You got to be real creative of how you tell them no, too, because they're like thinking, Dr. Joe, he's a great guy. He's going to give this to me. I know it. But what happens is, you put your organization in jeopardy. That person's not handicapped. Okay? Now, the other thing is, and this is one that's you're not going to like, but hopefully we figured out, I hated doing notes. But if you don't do notes, you put your organization in jeopardy, because what happens? What happens when somebody complains about your bathroom smell, and then they want to see your notes? Okay, because that's always the way to get the notes is by some ridiculous, ludicrous complaint, and then they say, "Well, let's see your notes." And nobody had good notes when I was in practice. I mean, it was a card that said "side posture right." That's what it said. And so, but what happened was we put our organization in jeopardy. So we had to become compliant. So that's the order: organization, people, self. So if you want, you could take a picture of that. I'm going to do a giveaway later, and I want to make sure one of you guys get that. If you go to my website and just fill out, and you don't have to do it now, you could do it later, but you fill out a little form with your email on it, will make you eligible. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm doing some coaching, and those are the 10 mindset strategies that I teach that we just went over. Hang on one second. So let's get into it. We reshape society through the understanding and application of pure, unadulterated, unfiltered, and undiminished chiropractic by offering every man, woman, and child the opportunity to live free from chronic subluxation. That's what we do. And I want you to remember, it's an offer. It's an offer. And this comes to a very important point, because we can't care more about people than they care about themselves. And it took me many years to really understand. I'm giving you a lot of nuggets tonight. You're not going to realize it until like 10 years from now, but I'm trying to save you like pain and agony, okay? I don't know why Mrs. Jones doesn't. You got to get the care, Jay. You need it, man. You know? No, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. It works like Robert Lee. I got the care. You want it or you don't. That's really how you got to do it, but in a very loving way. So, but this is what we get to do. We get to give folks an offer. And what we have to do too is understand who deserves the thanks for what we are doing right now, and we're standing on the lives of heroes. We drink the water from a well that we didn't dig, and we also stand under the shade from a tree we never planted. And you've got to realize this, because there's a lot of people that went before us that if you thought that was funny, they did much more for our profession, and we don't remember any of them. Oh yeah, we remember Ross Reaver, okay, because he was, he went to jail a lot. But there's a lot of people that suffered for you to be sitting in those seats today. Dee, him and BJ were arrested in 1903. BJ was indicted, Dee was convicted, and he was so passionate and committed to chiropractic that they basically told him, they said, listen, just say it's all a farce, say it's all a sham, say it's all nothing, and you don't have to go to jail, it'll all be over. And instead, he stood on principle. And he did the right thing, and he stood up and he said, no, I'm not going to say that. He said, as long as I have these two hands and there are sick people to get well, I will use them. And I'm sure it was a very dramatic moment, and I can't do it as well as some other people can do it, but to me, it's very impactful to understand that there was a man who was willing to go to jail for the right thing. And I don't think many of us would be willing to do that, to be honest with you. Oh, we say we would, but I don't know. But by the way, let me tell you just how human Dee Dee was. Dee Dee went to jail for 23 days in Scott County, and guess what? He paid the fine so he could get out. You know what? I don't blame the guy. I really don't blame the guy. You know, I don't think he was a wuss. I think he just, he made a leadership decision. He stood up and he realized, you know what? You got to pick your battles. And he didn't want to battle with whatever it was he was battling in jail. So they let him go, paying the $500, which back in 1903 was probably more like $5,000. 681 people went to jail for chiropractic, for practicing medicine without a license. 73 of those were women, okay? And I already mentioned Ross Reaver, I already mentioned Dee Dee and BJ. You know who this guy is with the smile behind the bars? Most people don't know who he is. Lyle McCash went to jail. And I say these names because I want you to know them. That's Lyle McCash. This is Fred Courtney. What's he doing in jail? Adjusting. That's chiropractic, man. Then you got this family. This is JC and Reba Willis, and that's their twin daughters. They both went to jail. I don't know who watched the daughters, but they both went to jail. Okay, there she is right there. Then you have Mildred Krevling. She went to jail. And then you have this unhappy fella, Franklin B. Lear. He also went to jail. And then you have Charles Lemley. Charles Lemley was arrested 66 times. 66 times. He had a chiropractic sanitarium in Waco, Texas, and he was getting the mentally ill well. I think he probably had handcuffs in his desk. And when they came by, he just said, slap these on. And then, of course, you have this man. Does anybody recognize this guy? His name is Roger Richardson. I want to talk to you a little bit about Roger Richardson for just a second. Roger Richardson was an extremely successful chiropractor. He graduated Palmer, Iowa in 1952. And he practiced in the state of Illinois. Back then, in the state of Illinois, you were not allowed to practice chiropractic unless you went to National College. So he knew very well that he could be arrested for practicing chiropractic. And because he was super successful, he was making a name for himself. He was adjusting a lot of people that were coming from Hollywood to Chicago so they would get adjusted. He had his own radio show on nationally broadcasted WGN. Now, if you haven't heard of WGN, that's where the Cubs used to be nationally broadcast. WGN, nationally broadcast radio station. And he would debate medical doctors and literally eviscerate them with chiropractic philosophy. And he was making a big name for himself. But lo and behold, the man who was the president of the Illinois Chiropractic Society decided to bring charges up against him because he did not have a license he was not graduate of one of the school that needed to be graduate. So he gets arrested. He gets thrown in jail. And guess what? Guess what position they give him in prison? He was made to hand out the drugs in the prison pharmacy. They were going to humiliate him. He was married, he had children. In the beginning, Palmer, BJ, who knew of what he did, and BJ used to promote his radio show, he was receiving letters from the students at Palmer, the faculty at Palmer. Hang in there, we're fighting for you, you know, we're gonna get this thing, just like we do today. And the letters started to slow down, time was going by. His wife took the children and left, comes up for his parole. They throw him back in jail because the same guy testified that threw him in jail. After 10 years, he gets out, and he was a shadow of what he once was, if you could ever imagine that, from humiliation and whatever else. He's being encouraged by his friends to practice chiropractic, but he just couldn't do it. And so they had set him up to open up what was called a speakeasy back then in the Midwest, where they had food and parties and alcohol and different things. But because he had a felony charge against him, they wouldn't give him a license to do that. You know, every man has his breaking point. We just do. Roger Richardson went to his one-room efficiency basement, pulled out a revolver, and blew his brains out. That's why I'm passionate about what I do. Every one of these lives, these 681 lives, they have stories behind them. At Sherman, the Scallon building, named for Mac and Kitty Scallon, both of them went to jail. On Rikers Island, Mac went to jail for doing nothing but practicing chiropractic. We have to keep this thing moving in the right direction. Thank you. Thank you.
And they taught us that.
What's that?
And they taught us that why we were in the building, why the building was named after me.
That's right.
We were there.
So, our foundation is our 33 principles, it's our philosophy. And I want to talk to you a little bit about foundation for just a second, because I wrote something, and sometimes I write something good. You can tell me if it stinks, I don't really care. I sound like Robert Lee. For a second. That ball has got to go. I was going to use the ball, maybe I'll use it later, we'll see. So, I'm going to read this to you. This building we are in right now has a foundation. Foundations cannot be moved without destroying the building. It would collapse. Now you can move the building, chiropractic, and put it on another foundation or philosophy. Everybody boo. Boo, that's not good. In our profession, especially those of us sitting in this room, know what our foundation or our philosophy is. It's all over the green books. It's all over the walls of Sherman College. And for us, those that protect, promote, and perpetuate truth, they are written all over our hearts. And so you can't move away from the philosophy or the foundation without destroying the profession. So this whole argument over what's chiropractic is an assault on our true identity. Those of us who know who we are and what we believe have chosen chiropractic philosophy over something else. We live in a different building that has its own solid foundation. We choose to embrace the freedom and the blessings from above down and inside out. Chiropractic is the blessing which allows an individual, a family, a community, a city, a state, a nation, and a world to express life at its highest potential. Chiropractic is freedom. That's what chiropractic is. So when we talk about foundations, that's what we're talking about. Oops, this thing looks good, it's touching. Green book. Okay, so we got 33 principles. I know you know principle 6, right? Right, everybody knows principle 6, it's time. Do you know another one? Maybe one?
Limitations of matter.
Limitations of matter. Say it.
The
You know you know what it says?
I just know.
I'm putting you on the spot, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
From what I remember, it's that innate functions 100%, and then there are limitations of matter as well. The triune as well.
So I'm going to encourage each one of you to know more than Principle 6 and Principle 1. So we have 33 principles, and the 33 start with 1, and everything flows from that. That's the foundation, okay? And so what we have to realize is it's all in a deductive and important order. And it's important that we know those principles, and I'll share why in just a little bit. So in any given moment in our life, we're either living above the line or below the line. Okay? Just bear with me here, okay? If you're living above the line, the things that you do are intentional, purposeful, and skillful. That's living above the line. That is a great way to lead and to move your office intentionally, purposefully, and skillfully. If you're living below the line, you're in blame, complain, and defend. Now, this is meant to get you to think about where you live. It's not about being critical. We're all this. Everybody's this. I am not in this glory of intentional, purposeful, and skillful, and that's how I live my life. Although I try to tell my wife I live that way, but the truth of the matter is, but here's what happens. You know how you stub your toe on something in your house sometimes? Did that again? Then the next time you walk in, you go, yeah, you're not going to get me. See, that's what it's about. It's about understanding and checking yourself. And then having people that love you in your life that can check you. Because she was the grace gift given to you. Perfect. The perfect helper. And that is where we grow. When we humble ourselves to understand that the people that are put into our life are going to help us find our blind spots and keep us in intentional, purposeful, and skillful. Okay? So I'm going to go back one slide because it was out of order. No matter what, everything plus your response equals the outcome. So the most important thing right here, see the big R? Your response. How are you going to respond? What is your responsibility? You see? And so it doesn't matter what happens. Bad stuff happens. Bad stuff happens to me. But how am I responding? Am I blaming? Oh, man. You know? Maybe for a minute. And I go, what does God have planned for me? Because if everything is the way it's supposed to be, we all say, it's supposed to be that way, it happens for a reason, everybody says it, but do you believe it? Do you believe it? When you step in a pile of dog poop, do you believe it? When a fly goes into your eye, do you believe it? You should. You should, because that is part of the plan. And how you respond is very, very important. So, the greatest technique, and this is good because you guys just did a bunch of technical stuff. I believe the greatest technique we have as chiropractors is love. Love. We have to learn to love our patients. Now, Q, you don't have to like them. Some people you just don't like. I mean, I know. I practiced a long time. They walk in the door, you hear their voice, oh, God. I gotta love them. And you love them because God gave them to you. And you have to grow, and you have to love them. Now, what does that mean? You have to love them as much as you can because they are a creation. And they were made to have the same impact that you are to have in your world as well. And just because you can't connect on that like level doesn't mean you can't love them. We do plenty of stuff where God never says, I don't love you anymore. He always will love us. So there's four simple ideas that I want to plant in your head about chiropractic philosophy. And this could be part of your mission message. And you don't read that one yet. Don't read that one yet, because I want to read that one in a minute. I want to set it up. So the first idea, and if your patients can understand this first idea, you are like, it's home run city, okay? And you know what that idea is? The body heals itself. You got the sign up there, right? But what does it mean? The body can heal itself. So when they walk in, and you know this, Dr. Joe, they come in with everything they need to be healthy, regardless of limitations of matter. Because a person who is alive has 100% innate intelligence. And a person who's dead has 0. A person who's alive and has cancer has 100% innate intelligence. So the body can heal itself. That's number one. Number two, the nervous system is responsible for every aspect of the human experience. Every aspect. So Dr. Kent says it this way. Because the third thing is the interference. The interference of the nervous system. And he says when there's interference of the function of the nervous system, not only can it compromise your physical well-being, but it can also have psycho-emotional consequences because it distorts your perception of the world and limits your ability to respond to the environment. When this happens to a significant number of people in a society, you have a sick society. We're there. We're there. I don't say that proudly, but we're there, and we've been there for a while. And so this is why you get a chance to reshape your community, and you get a chance to be a leader in not just a community, but a city, a state, and a world. And so this is very, very important. So the final thing is, this is the fourth thing, so this would be sort of number 3, the interference. The fourth thing is, chiropractors are the ones that remove it. Who else is removing it? You know, and we all understand, I mean, those of us that live on it, we understand the psycho-emotional consequences of subluxation. I mean, literally, that's how I know that I'm not right. I'm just like, I don't like the way I'm thinking. I just don't like the way I'm thinking. And could you imagine you've never been exposed to the concept of subluxation? You've never been disabused of the idea that health is just feeling good. And you're walking around subluxated and you're mentally disturbed because of it and you have no idea it's a subluxation. Who are we telling? Who are we telling? Oh, great, we get great results with back pain and neck pain and headaches and all this great stuff. Super! Great way to bring them into the store. It's like 2 paper towels for $1. That's how you get them into Walmart. You get 2 for 50 cents, we gotta go. Well, really, we want to sell you the $100 TV. I would say $500, but you got a really good deal on Facebook Marketplace. The point I'm making is, those people are coming in with this bizarre idea of why they need you, usually, and I'm saying bizarre, it's usually bizarre. I heard you can help me. You help my friend. And then you get to share with them the idea behind it all. That they have a subluxation, a vertebral subluxation, by the way. It's another thing we've gotten away from, the vertebral subluxation. So this is really, those are the 4 things. Body can heal itself. Okay, nervous system runs the body. interferes with the nervous system, affects everything. And we correct that. At least that's what we should be doing. So let's talk about leadership for just a moment. So this is one of the things that I really want people to know as chiropractors in their community, that they're leaders. And there's two types of leadership. There's transactional leadership and transformational leadership. The transactional leadership is what it says. You do this to get that. I adjust you, you pay me, have a nice day, I'll see you next Tuesday. Nothing wrong with this, by the way. This is not about what's right and what's wrong. This is about enlightening to a mindset, okay? The other mindset is transformational. Like, how are we going to approach this person? Because they're a person, we want to help them. Yes, we want to get paid. I know that. That's what this side of the office does. They get the money, but I get to adjust them. I don't really care what their balance is. I don't care if they smell. I don't care if I like them. I want to transform their life by removing that interference and allowing their body to work as good as it can. This is why Dr. Sid used to say, never let the left hand know what the right hand's doing. Because it was about transformation. We want to transform people and their understanding. Why did those people follow you when you moved your office 11 miles? You transformed their lives. They said, I don't ever have a doctor that's like Dr. Joe. I'll follow him to St. Augustine if I could. So my point is, it's about transformation. So have the concept of transformational leadership, not just transactional. And this is also, the implication of this is doing the right thing. Doing the right thing. You do the thing because it's right, not because, I came here because I really wanted to have the Carrabba's dinner. That's why I came. I drove 4 hours because I love Carrabba's. You see what I'm saying? I didn't come here 4 hours in my car. It was the most wonderful trip. I got to be myself. I'm thinking, I'm listening to scripture, I'm listening to my music, and I was like, okay, what am I going to talk about? How am I going to lay all this out? Because I want transformation in you. I want you to remember what I remember when I went to Saturday Night Live in 1988 and I saw your dad speak. I mean, he was a heck of a speaker. He was a scary speaker, but he was also very transparent about who he was. And I can still remember this whole talk about ping pong balls. And it was about money and how he had a lot of money, but it's like ping pong balls. And if you have so much ping pong balls in the room, you can't move. I remember something like that. It was like, I still remember this. Like it really had an impact on me because I didn't have any money. And I was like, he's got money, I want his money, Maybe I don't want his money. The money is a problem. Because that's what he was saying. He was saying, be careful what you wish for. Because if you get too much of it, sometimes you don't know how to handle it. That was the lesson. I didn't get that lesson until years later, but I remembered it. And I remember Hank Cousineau. Hank Cousineau came to Saturday Night Live one night, and he did this. See? He said, be ready. Be ready. When you're a chiropractor, be ready. See? Always be ready to get the ball. Because you never know when that ball is coming to you. You see what I'm saying? And I remember, I don't know, were you there when he did that? Really good. It was just like good stuff. These guys came up, there was no PowerPoint, there was no nonsense like this. But my point is that this was transformational for me. And so many other talks, Dr. Sigafus, Dr. Sid, Dr. Grossum, Dr. Mastursky, so much. So transformational leadership. So this is important. We're going to talk about 4 types of leadership. So we saw Robert E. Lee, very, very driven, very dominant personality, very Donald Trump-esque, my way or the highway sort of a dude or girl, whatever. Minnie's probably can relate to this a little bit. I've known her many, many years, and she's a strong personality. And she knows what she wants. She makes decisions quickly, and she leads from the front. That's what she does. She doesn't care what anybody else thinks. She tells you what she thinks, and she's usually right. Being honest. That's the type of leader. Second type of leader is your consensus type leader. What do you think? Should we do this? What do you think? What do you think? I need some consensus. The other type of leader is, how are we going to have the best time possible? We're gonna lead this. We're gonna drive the charge, and it's gonna be fun, Dr. Joe. You can see, hey, John being like that a little bit, right? He's not here, so I can talk about him. And then you have, so the consensus leader is the leader from the side. So what should we do? What should we do? What should we do? The leader, the fun leader, the Hague leader, stands in the middle of the crowd and uses charisma and tries to charge them all up, okay? And then you have the leaders who are very calculating, very analytical. Their big fear is making a mistake, so they lead from the back. They do all the research. They try to figure all out what's the best decision, because the last thing they want to do, Terry, is make a mistake, right? Because if they make a mistake, then they feel bad, okay? I don't see Robert Lee ever feeling bad. He doesn't care. Buy my trailer or not. And so I want you to understand there's ways to recognize these people when they're walking in your door. You got a guy like Robert Lee coming in there, you're like, Mr. Lee, here's what we're going to do today. Boom, 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 and then we're going to do boom, and I'll see you on Tuesday. He's going to fall in love with you. Mr. Lee, let me tell you a story. Tell you about Harvey Lillard. He was, oh my God, the guy was deaf. He's going to, you're nuts, Dr. Joe. I'm out of here. But some of those people like the dog stories. They love it. Oh, Dr. Joe, tell me more, tell me more. So how do you recognize these people? There's ways to do it. You look like an analytical guy, I could just tell. Okay, you both of you. Great way to hang out together, birds of a feather. But in any way, there's 4 types of leadership. Figure out who you are, because it's very important, and how you lead. Because there's no wrong leadership. You understand that? There's no wrong. It's just you. So the other thing too, and I'll end leadership with this, is know your blind spots. Like, we all have blind spots. And you need friends in your life to be able to say, Dr. J, let's talk. You don't do it in front of a crowd. You don't embarrass anybody. You just say, hey, here's what I see, okay? I saw a guy, I was at a conference a couple weeks ago, good friend of mine. He's a Christian guy. He was cursing up a storm. He was all like fired up about what he was talking about. And I'm like, oh, that's terrible. Like, you are talking about the Lord and cursing at the same time. I'm like, that's not leading people in the right direction. So I went up to him, and I did it sort of in a jesting manner. I said, that was a pretty powerful talk you gave me. Probably could have done better without the cursing. And immediately he was like, you're right. He accepted, he humbled himself and accepted it. But he goes, I was really fired up. I said, I understand that. It's called emotional control and emotional intelligence, which I have very little of, by the way, as you can tell. But it's important to gain that. Second thing is practice growth. Have a mission message. Understand the value of what you're doing, students as well. And make love your most important delivery. Because and I heard this at DE a long time ago. There's 2 reasons why people come or stay in your office. They come because they feel loved, they leave because they don't. And I believe that. I believe that it's not for everybody, but a lot of people, if you think about the ones that left, didn't have a good last visit with them. I didn't give them enough love. Financial help, okay? And students, I know you're in this upside down world now where you're taking out money and all this stuff, but it's really important to have a budget. It's really important to strategize to become debt free. And it's really important not to pay interest on anything. So if you can avoid that, we live in a world of deception and counterfeit, where if we can afford a payment, we think we can afford it. That doesn't mean you can afford something because you can afford the payment. In fact, you're going into, it's a slave situation, okay? And I've done a bankruptcy, okay? I've lived all this, okay? Just so you know, I don't like speak this and like, you know, like I read it somewhere. I had a bankruptcy in 1993. That's how I opened up my office. I had to get rid of all my bills so I could leave the guy I was working for, so I could open up my office. And it was a tough 7 years or whatever it was. But I learned how Learned how to pay cash. Back when we used to use cash. And at the same time, it set me up for how I live now. Like, I get it. And I want other people to get it too. I don't want y'all to make the same mistakes that I make. That's the problem. I'm like a dad. Like, you don't want your kids to do the same stupid things you did. So you need to live debt free. Personal development, I highlight a couple of these things. Be teachable or be humble. That's the bottom line. Okay? You will be humbled if you're not teachable. I'm going to say this, to know yourself is the greatest gift you can give yourself. And you really need to know who you are. Who you are, what you believe, why it, why you do what you do. And I say this, no matter who you are, make God your life coach. Because God's the one that thought you up, and God's the one that heals your people. And remember, you can live in a man-centered world or a God-centered world, and God is a God-centered God. And the things that we understand are not necessarily His ways. And so you have to understand God is the one that we need to turn to. Professional development. Invest in yourself and your team. If you're not doing that, chiropractors, you really need to. Recognizing communication styles. I can teach you more about that if you're interested. And you need, and I said make God your life coach, but if you're not going to do that, have some what I call resonant mentoring. Whether it's DE or whether it's Dr. Hartley teaching you technique or Dr. Joe teaching you about his office, have resonant mentoring. Bad company corrupts good character. Surround yourself with people you can learn from, that you like, not people you don't like. Whoops. Relationship building. This is one I'm particularly fond of because I was able to build a lot of relationships for Sherman College when I was there, and I didn't realize that God had given me this gift until I started using it. But one of the things that I did in practice is I was very overzealous. I know I did that thing where I sat at his feet and I was like, you gotta have it. But that's kind of how I was. And some of us as chiropractors, we become overzealous about what we do because we're heart people and we want everybody to get it, okay? But it's just like, okay, you see a movie, you love this movie, do you run around the whole world telling people, you gotta see this movie, you gotta see it? Not it's like, okay, enough with the movie already, Q. All right, you liked it. I'm not going to the movies. You know, that's kind of how we look. We look ridiculous, okay? It's funny, I was riding up here today and I didn't realize it was bike week. I mean, I saw some YouTube videos of some girls doing all kinds of crazy stuff, but I didn't realize it was bike week. I looked real quick and I moved on. But I see like all these bikes, and then we got stuck like in Daytona, and like I was like, oh, it's bike week, and you know, I'm watching these guys ride these bikes. Man, that culture of that bike, they look so freaking cool. You know, he's like good looking. They got the things, whatever's on them. They look good. These people, they look good. And then I started thinking about chiropractors. What do we look like? We look like lunatics half the time. We're just crazy. And we've set it up that way. Like, we need a better culture. Like he's great. Like this guy. I wish I was more like him. You know, he's just like calm, professional. You know, we got these chiropractors that just, they're scaring people away. And so what we have to do is we have to be very cognizant of who we are. So we want to recognize our own body language, others' body language. Be very much them focused in your office. Don't be you focused. Them focused is transformational. You focused is transactional. And remember, yourself is the lowest person on that triangle. Be them focused. So the people are above that, but always organizationally focused. Listen rather than paying attention long enough so you can talk, which I was very guilty of. I still am. So really listen to people. Like, let them know you hear them. Don't just pay attention so you can tell them about the principle. I'll sort of leave it there. And here's something I learned from my daughter. Gotta make people feel safe. Especially nowadays. People want to feel safe. You know, I mean, I grew up in chiropractic where we were like a bunch of Robert Lees. You know, it wasn't about feeling safe. And I remember Bob Sotilli. I didn't feel safe. If he was 6 feet from me, I didn't feel safe. Okay, right? You know, when you're a kid, he smelled like Marlboro, and he would look at you and go, "What do you want?" Like, oh, I don't know what I want. I gotta go. It was just like, but we have to make people feel safe because that makes them feel loved. And I learned this from my daughter, and I'll tell you how I learned it from my daughter. When she was at Sherman College, she was 30 years old. I had come back from a speaking engagement in Oklahoma City, and there were some things that I found out that she was doing that did not bode well for my reputation at Sherman College, nor did it bode well for her future. And so and it wasn't the first time, so I had a little talk with her, and she started crying. And I'm like, what's going on? And she tells me that when she was 15 years old, she was drugged and raped. Now, I gotta tell you, as a dad, I felt like I didn't protect my family initially. Now, those of you who know my wife, she wanted to have names and numbers, and she was going to call the person 15 years later and kill them. But I was more like, okay, well, thank you for telling us. How much do you want to tell us? That kind of thing. Remember, she's 30 years old at this point. And it was kind of interesting because my daughter's always been gorgeous. She's always had like relationship issues. Like, I don't know, she would fall in love with every guy, and then like 3 in her whole life, and then they would leave and she would be like devastated. And so I always knew there was something wrong, but I didn't know what it was. And here's what the lesson was for me. Apart from the tragedy that she went through, which was a real tragedy that I understand a lot of women actually have gone through since then. It's kind of something that happens more than you would think. But the tragedy was that she didn't feel safe enough to tell me for 15 years. And it was only because I had her up against the wall, figuratively, that she had to tell me. And so, when she graduated, now that was the beginning of her healing, Kathy, just so you know. And because it was the beginning of her healing, when she graduated Sherman College and she opened up her own office, which I was dead against because she's not a business person, but she did it anyway because kids don't listen to their parents. But in any event, she opened up her office, and I would go into her office and everybody loved her. And she would just sit there and just listen to them. She knew how to make people feel safe because that's how God gave her that gift. And I started to realize, oh my God, I never make anybody feel safe. I'm like, I question everything. And I just wasn't that guy. And so I've learned how to make people feel safe. When I would go into a practice, when I first started at Sherman College, and I was in my sort of the end of my hate straight days, which you don't know what that means, but that just meant if you don't practice chiropractic, you're an idiot. I would walk into offices of graduates of Sherman College, and they would have various things in their office, and I would be so critical of them in my own mind, I would hate it. And I started to learn through this understanding of safety that, and I said this to Dr. Joe earlier, everybody's got to go through their own journey. Yeah, sometimes you got to sell the Mona V juice for a while to know maybe it's not for you. Or maybe it is, and that's okay. Who am I to judge anybody else but myself? And so I have become not sort of a wuss when it comes to this, but a lot more gracious about it. And it's like, now I get a chance, just like you get a chance to lead patients, you get a chance to lead chiropractors if they want to be led. That's all. And maybe they don't, maybe they do. But you can be the example. See, that's the thing. You could be the example without blaming, complaining, and defending, but intentionally, purposefully, and skillfully being the example. So don't be overzealous. 3 things about relationships to build trust. You must engage first. Engage. Engage is a very, how are things going with you? You're in St. Augustine now. How did you get here? Engage. I haven't seen him in 3 years, 2 years, something. I don't know. No, we know each other. We don't know each other well, to be honest with you, even though I know his family a long time. we've never, I think we're just recent friends on Facebook, to be honest. But like, oh, I met a friend of, I think it was the last time I saw you. I was like, I think it's about time, right? Point is that you have to engage. And then from engagement becomes cultivation. You cultivate the relationship. And then they naturally want to do what you think they should do. Pay the bill, be a patient. You know, you don't say, you need to be a patient in my office. That's the old days. Old days, you need to come in and see me. We'll take care of that. So, engage, cultivate. Did we lose Mom? We lost Mom. Is he okay?
I didn't even say I did.
It's okay. Engage, cultivate, and then you get what you need. Communication, 70 to 90% of your communication is unspoken. Just so you know, you'll probably remember 10 to 30% of what I'm saying tonight, but you'll remember how you felt, you'll remember the things that I did, whatever it is, you'll remember that because my communication is nonverbal. You'll remember my tone, my cadence, whether I spoke with authority, whether I was full of baloney, whatever you're picking up on that, you're going to remember that. You may not remember what I said, but you might walk out. You ever walk out, you heard a speaker, you go, man, I really like that guy. And then somebody said, well, what are you talking about? I said, I don't know, but I liked him. It was good. So remember that. So here's what we can say, here's what we say, and this is how we say it. So how we say it: cadence, tone, pauses, voice inflection. Very, very important. We have to know when to shut up. Okay? Words like treat versus correct, adjust versus manipulate, analyze versus diagnose. How we frame our language, very important. This is our own unique language, and we have to utilize it. I think the greatest thing we can tell a patient is they don't need to be adjusted because they are clear. You know, I think one of the things we do in chiropractic is we sell the adjustment. We should be selling the check. See, the check is more important than the adjustment. And the education is more important than the check. Because a lot of people can get checked with pain, and then you don't adjust them because they're clear and they're confused. I mean, they're going to be confused even if they don't think they're confused. So how do we do that? How do we dance around all of that? That's because we have to be confident in our own principle and understand what it's about. It's about a verbal somatization. It's either there or it's not. You're either pregnant or you're not. Okay? So if you're not pregnant, you're not having a baby. If you're pregnant, you're having a baby. And so the thing is, we have to be able to understand we want people to be clear. I heard somebody say a long time ago, I never want, as a chiropractor, he said, I never want another adjustment for the rest of my life. What? I said, yeah, every time I go in, I want to be clear. Oh, okay, good. But it got me thinking, like, where is our focus? Our focus is on the adjustment. You remember the old days? Medical doctors, what was their focus on? The prescription. Nothing wrong with you, but take this. See, we're getting a little like that. I'm sorry, a little bit of a blind spot here in our profession, but it's not about the adjustment. You know, we go to seminars, oh, adjust me. Well, let's check you to see if you need one. All right? Well, I know I need one. How do you know? Because I heard. Well, then you're an idiot. Then you don't know chiropractic. And you know, the truth is they may need one. I mean, you know, forgive me for being so curt. But at the end of the day, let's find a way to check people so they can be restored. Adaptability is another word we don't use enough. It's all about adaptation. I mean, it's, you know, they say, what are the three causes of subluxation? What are the three causes of subluxation?
Here's the line.
I know, I put you on the spot. This is, you didn't have that class yet, but they say the three causes: chemical, physical, emotional. That's what causes it. No, it's the inability to adapt to chemical, physical, emotion. That's what causes subluxation. It's a little nuanced, but it's chiropractic. Speaking. If you have a mission message, you need to know how to speak. You need to know eye contact. You need to understand cadence. You need to understand clarity. You need to be ready to give a defense for what you do. I mean, you got these phones now, you got a phone, you put in the notes, just bullet point. If somebody asks me what I do, what am I gonna say? You know? I do something so fantastic. I'm so glad you asked. I check nervous systems for interference. And if there's interference in the nervous system, your life is just not as good as it could be. Wow, tell me more. Now I'm going to tell you something, and this is a little transformational, but it's a little transactional at the same time too. I have learned over the years that saying the word chiropractic and chiropractor immediately creates an opinion in somebody's head, good or bad. It could be great. I love you guys. You know, one of those. Oh, I love you guys. What was the last time we went? 1917. I had a great chiropractor. He died, so I never went back.
Or he fixed it.
Yeah, he fixed me. So I try to, like you know, it's like if a kid asks you where do babies come from, you know, you gotta kind of like, okay, let's sit down, let's have this conversation. And so the key is, I try not to say that right away. Oh, I'm a chiropractor. What, are you a doctor? The finest. That's what I say, the finest. What do you do? So I check nervous system. And eventually I'll say, yeah, I'm a chiropractor. And then what they'll say, you've given them enough information, Dr. J, where they say, I didn't know chiropractors did that. I thought they were just for accidents and stuff. There's a lot of them that just do that, but that's not the type of chiropractor I am. And so now you're engaging and you're beginning the cultivation process. So have your mission message. You need to do doctor's reports, whether they're individual or whether they're in a group setting. You need to start practicing that now. And I can help you do that. Be confident in your adjusting. Can you find it? Can you fix it? Can you leave it alone? Those are three important things. Never ask a patient how he felt after. How do you feel after an adjustment? Terrible. Terrible question. Terrible question. Or you say, did it move? And the worst one is, did that hurt? Terrible. Now, sometimes you're going to adjust people, you're going to know it hurt. But you needed that. That's the first thing I said. You needed that. I know you felt that. You needed it. Okay. Like, don't lose your confidence. You know? I mean, if they pull a bullet out of your arm, it's going to hurt. Okay? That's just the way it is. You know? Triage, they don't say to you, you know, it's going to hurt a little bit. Got to get that knife out of you. It's going to hurt. No, you say, get it out. So, what you can say is, let's stand up. Let's see how you're doing. Let's see how you're moving. Turn your head this way, turn it down. It's moving better. Here's the principle. Dr. Sid taught us this. You're better. And here's the principle. If you're subluxated or unsubluxated, and you just unsubluxated them, and they don't feel any different, they're still better. You're not lying to them. You're better. I'm better without a subluxation than I am with a subluxation. And it doesn't really matter how a person feels. It does. But it's not your thing. That's between them, and Dr. Santo used to say this, that's between them and their creator. What's between you and me is the interference. What happens after that is between you and the creator. Okay? I'm about the interference, creator's about the rest. So one more thing I want to talk about before this is I want to talk about what is the promise of chiropractic and what is the potential of chiropractic. Chiropractors tend to promise the potential. I can help you with those headaches, I can help you with that sciatica, I can help you with that, whatever it is. That's actually incorrect because you don't know that. But I'm going to tell you something you do know, which you can promise. And the promise is, Dr. Joe, I can get you cleared. That's the promise. What happens after that, you're going to have to let me know. And so the problem is chiropractors have gotten so used to such 90% results, pretty much. You don't even have to be a great chiropractor. You're going to get 90% results. And this is the way it is. I'm sorry. And so we go, oh yeah, I can help this, I can help that, I can help this. I would be very reticent to say that. I said, my job is to get you clear and get you to express life the best you possibly can. I want you to let me know what this looks like in 3 months. See, you just planted a seed in their head. 3 months? Yeah, 3 months. Can't have a good baby in 5 months. Chiropractors, at least 3 months for the initial care. You break your arm, what happens? 8 weeks in a cast, 4 months, four weeks of rehab. Red blood cells, how many days? 120? You know, I mean, that's how the body works. Got to tell you that. So, I had a story that I wanted to read to you. Are you guys still with me, or are we going too long here? Going too long?
We're with you.
Okay, all right. You'd say that anyway, because I've been in that audience. I'm the one that says, you want to do it?
Will I say it? Yeah.
Yeah. You can say it. You will. You're the Robert Lee. So, you might have heard this story, but there was once a very old king, and he wanted to ensure that the kingdom, this is kind of a chiropractic story, wanted to ensure that the kingdom view of life would continue after his life had expired. To this end, he called all of his most trusted and enlightened advisors, and he told them, I want you to gather all the knowledge of the kingdom and bring it to me into the castle where it can be found and enjoyed by every man, woman, and child. So his best men, they went out. He had chosen them individually. They went out for several years, and they brought back horse wagons filled with books. And the king was very saddened by this. He said, no, this is too much for any person to read in a lifetime. He said, we need to distill it down. So they went out again, and they came back with volumes that were numbered and in order. And he said, this is still too much. We have to distill it down even more. And then they came back, and it was a book filled with a bunch of pages that had all this information in it. He says, this is still too much. And so they went out one last time, and they came back with a book, and the book had one word on one page. And he said, this was the key. This was the key. Serve. Serve. This is what we have to do, is serve. So, with that being said, I wanted to let you know that I wrote a devotional. I wrote a book. And I want to give it to you guys if you want it. I'm having it published right now in an e-version. And I want to share something very personal with you about my book. And it's about the dedication. And the dedication, and we're going to end on this, the dedication, I didn't know who I was going to dedicate it to, Kathy. So I just had this conversation with my wife a couple of weeks ago. And probably more like a month ago now. And I thought, maybe I should dedicate it to you. And we talked about it. She didn't say yay, she didn't say nay, I didn't say yay, I didn't say nay. And then on February 12th, I did the Band of Brothers talk. And I just had such a great time doing that talk. It was so good. I got such encouragement that night from that talk. It was like I really needed that. It just filled my soul incredibly. And that was a night that Mindy said, hey, or maybe, I think it was that night you said, we need to get you to St. Augustine. I'm like, sure, why not? I'm happy to do it. She goes, I'll introduce you to Dr. J and so forth. Well, the next morning I'm on coaching calls, and I see a text come in from my son. My daughter-in-law, we already have one grandson. She's over 8 months pregnant, and the text comes in that they're supposed to have the baby at home, midwife. They're in the hospital. And Michael, my son, is a chiropractor. He says, bring me my iPad, I gotta call my patients, and, bring a bag, we're gonna, gentleman's having the baby. Literally 15 minutes later, he sends me a text. There's no heart. We lost the baby. In the 8th month. Now, I know that's happened before in chiropractic. I've seen it. And I can name the different people that I know. But you never think it's going to happen to you. I mean, it's just, you don't think it. And so that was the 12th. I did the call on Monday. This is Tuesday the 13th. And after the devastation of it all, I realized who I was going to do the dedication to. And so I wanted to read it to you. Would that be okay? I know I'm going a little bit longer. I'd like to read it to you. It is no secret that this is my first publication, and although it is a daily devotional, I believe it remains deserving of a heartfelt and proper dedication. My writing comes from the inspiration and teaching of the Holy Spirit, as well as those who have patiently given me a good deal of discipleship over the years. Since being saved, I owe much to many pastors, teachers, rabbis, and friends for giving me the time that allowed my sin-tainted mind to even understand a minute microscopic understanding of the truth. With that being said, I had a tough time and was seriously struggling to find the appropriate individual, whether pastor, teacher, mentor, or person in my life, to be the one to dedicate this book to. Today I know why. God will use events and experiences in our lives to drive us back to Him and to our God-given purposes. During the final days of completing A Hope Without End, God revealed to me the person and the life that these pages should be dedicated to. It is important for us to know that it is not how long we live, but it is the amount of impact that our lives will have in the revealing of God's glory. The truth is this, that no matter what, God is going to be glorified through our lives. Today and every single day, God is glorified through the life of my second grandson, baby Isaiah Cohen. You see, in his 8th month of life, Isaiah was born still on February 13, 2024, now and forever resting in the arms of God. As I write these words, Isaiah is seated at his right hand alongside our glorious Savior, Yeshua HaMashiach, who is Lord of all. Although it is not granted to me the precious gift to hold baby Isaiah or to even touch his beautiful hands and feet, I loved him. We loved him. The life of Isaiah has already had a profound impact on many. To our family and dear friends, his life has already demonstrated incredible meaning. Isaiah Cohen meant something, especially to God. My prayer is that when you're reading through the upcoming pages, it becomes a beautiful springboard to remembering his brief life and its significance to God's eternal glory. It is also my sincere hope that as you read on, Isaiah's life will have a deep and lasting meaning for you as well. May this devotional be the blessing to you in that it strengthens your faith and transforms you, renewing you daily in the grace and in the knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ. So that's the dedication in the book, and the thing I love about that is I didn't even feel like those words were coming from me when I was writing it, which was a beautiful thing. And the other thing is that this book will get to touch people, and if they read that part of the book, Isaiah will have a remembrance of sorts forever. And so I want to make the book available to you. It's going to come out in an e-version first, and I'm happy to give that to you. If you, there you go, Mindy. We'll go back to that. It's going to look a little bit like this. If you go to that QR code and fill out on the landing page, you'll see under the testimonials your name, your email address. You can put a little message in there too that you saw me speak. As soon as it comes out, I'll send you the book. And it'll also give you an opportunity to go to my website for anybody that wants any mentoring in any of the areas we talked about today. I'm happy to have a discovery call with you on that and share those things with no transaction whatsoever. If you want to move forward from that point, that's up to you. But that's what I'm doing now. It's called Above Down Success Coaching, and I'm really loving it, as I was telling some of my friends this evening. So I kind of missed this one. Remember I said, you know, if patients know that the body heals itself, that's pretty good. They also need to know that chiropractic is good for them. Joe, when a person comes into your office and they've been coming a long time, and then they tell their friend asks them, says, hey, do you want to go to lunch on Wednesday at this time? Oh no, that's when I go see Dr. Joe. She goes, Dr. Joe, that's your chiropractor, right? What's wrong with you? That's what they say. What's wrong with you? And they say nothing. And then the person thinks, oh my God, Dr. Joe must be like Jim Jones. He gives them Kool-Aid and they just go, and there's nothing wrong with them. But what we have to teach our patients is when they get asked, what's wrong with you? There's nothing wrong with me. I go because it's good for me. And it would be good for you too, Dr. J. And you know what? You should come with me on that visit, and then we'll go to lunch after. What a great thing to tell people. Chiropractic is good for you. So that's kind of what I want to leave you with. You know, we drink water, we sleep the right amount, we do things because it's good for us. Chiropractic is one of those things that's good for us. So thank you so much for my rant of a long time at this point, and I really appreciate you guys. I didn't know what to expect with numbers and everything else, and I wanted to give you something that you could solidly take home. And by the way, whoever fills out that, whichever student is the first one that fills out that QR code, you're gonna get this. So, has anybody filled it out yet?
I did.
You did? Okay, well, forget it, you get it. That's signed by Irene Gold.
Oh, is it?
It's signed by Irene.
If someone else wants my one at home, I'll give you.
Just bring it back to me, I'll have her sign it and I'll give it away again. Yeah. But, yeah, thank you guys very much, it was really a pleasure. I'm really glad I came up.